organisms eating other organisms by killing them, and even some scientists call these earliest predators carnivores, as if what they were doing was indeed devouring meat. These first acts of predation, many researchers agree, held great consequences for life on Earth. They were essential to the emergence of eukaryotes, organisms with complex cells containing organelles. After the predators started hunting down other bacteria, the engulfed prey would sometimes develop defense mechanisms to avoid being digested and would survive inside the predator. With time and generations, these fortified prey would evolve into organelles such as mitochondria, and eukaryotes emerged. All animals and all plants are eukaryotes. Once the ancient bacteria got hooked on the meat of others, it started a chain of events that led not only to the emergence of eukaryotes with their complex cells, but also to many other vital transitions in evolution, going from unicellular to multicellular. It's harder to get eaten if you have multiple cells instead of just one. From small to large, from soft-bodied to hard-shelled, from slow to fast. Without that first bacterium eating up another, there would have been no eukaryotes on Earth, no multicellular organisms, no animals, no meat-eaters, and no meat. The game of life was changing. Soon enough, specialized predators would be hunting the muscled flesh of others, and meat-eating as we know it today would be born. In the warm oceans of late Precambrian Earth, sometime around 550 million years ago, one of the first true carnivores began eating meat. We know of this carnivore's existence because it left traces in the fossilized carcasses of animals called Cloudina. But this ancient predation couldn't be further from the primal scene we might imagine of a shark-like predator in hot pursuit of a dolphin-like victim. Although we still don't know the identity of this Precambrian carnivore, it almost certainly wouldn't have done much damage to a modern human. It was probably rather small, about 0.02 inch long, like a short grain of rice, and instead of ripping its prey apart with a mouthful of sharp teeth, it bored holes into it. The prey wasn't exactly fleeing in terror, either. Cloudina was an anemone, a coral-like animal, and formed shells that resembled towers made of shot glasses. It lived out its life attached to the bottom of the sea, which is where it met its fate, eaten by a creature that drilled holes as thin as an average human hair into its shells. This may not sound much like carnivorous behavior. Still, if we define a carnivore, after Encyclopedia Britannica, as an animal whose diet consists of other animals, then the predator of Cloudina most likely fits the bill. But was there even any actual meat to be eaten on a Cloudina? After all, an anemone doesn't look much like a sirloin steak. Although the word meat is usually understood to mean the edible parts of an animal, the most important component of meat is skeletal muscle, muscles that we can contract voluntarily, as opposed to heart muscle and the smooth muscles that make up blood vessels, the bladder, or the uterus. Did Cloudina have skeletal muscles? A real meat to be eaten? Quite likely, yes. Scientists believe that skeletal muscle has been around for at least 600 million years. Jellyfish-like animals, of which Cloudina was most likely one, were the first to evolve skeletal muscles, and so they were the first meat animals on Earth. Of course, how that meat would have tasted remains a mystery, but it would have probably been a bit similar to modern anemones, which are eaten in Chinese and Spanish cuisines, and which, according to one present-day food blogger, taste like a hybrid of pork and veggies with a fishy aftertaste. Odds are that the mysterious hole-drilling predator of Cloudina wasn't even the first meat-eater on Earth. But it was the first meat-eater whose traces we have found so far, even though we still have no idea what it might have looked like. The first carnivores that we can actually identify appear later. One of those earliest meat-eaters still exists today and is known as the penis worm. Disturbing as the name may seem, if you search the web for images of these animals,